But we've just given her the perfect lead in. We have Jennifer Lynn Goodman, who is a 6-time cancer survivor who founded Cycle for Survival, an annual event that raises money for research in rare cancers.
Hi.
Jennifer, welcome to us on Dr. Radio.
Thank you. Well, the good news is Cycle for Survival is an indoor cycling event. So anyone
no
can do it.
dumpsters.
There'll be
It's
no
really hard to
dumpsters
fall
there,
on
right?
dumpsters, that's
Yes,
right.
It's
okay.
really hard to fall off a stationary bike.
What a guy. All right.
Oh, so it's a stationary bike. Well, I can handle that.
Exactly.
You know what? We could have it here during the show. It could be our half an hour.
Yes, okay.
exercise.
For the
Yes.
Serious Radio people, we need a stationary
Yes.
bike here for Sylvia.
Yeah.
So
That's
Jennifer,
very
welcome to our radio program,
Yes.
and thanks for being here and talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to actually. I want to ask you a little bit what is your story as far as cycling and fundraising? And we have a couple of callers we've been holding for a while. We're going to get back to them in a few seconds, but just tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I was diagnosed about 6 years ago with a very rare type of cancer, MFH sarcoma. And unfortunately, 6 surgeries, major abdominal surgeries, over 10 different types of chemotherapy over the years. And, we get rid of it and then it comes back. And for me, cycling, indoor cycling, spinning is what most people call it, was very cathartic for me. I really do believe exercise is a huge part of my emotional recovery and spiritual, healing. And I started to cycle indoors, and I became friends with all the instructors at Equinox, and we decided to put together this event, and it started 5 years ago. And we are up to raising cumulative over $8 million for rare cancer research.
Wow.
So what actually is the event?
The event is actually, it was last weekend in Chicago. It's this weekend in New York, Midtown, and Long Island. And it's a 4-hour relay. So what we do is we have teams of people sign up, and they share an indoor bike for 4 hours.
Right.
And you raise money for rare cancers. It's interesting because when I was diagnosed with a rare cancer, my husband and I started to research, and what we learned is that over 50% of cancers are considered rare.
Right.
And these are cancers that we've heard of, pancreatic cancer, brain cancer, melanoma, all pediatric cancers, and yet they get so little funding because the pharmaceutical companies just don't invest in new drugs. But yet, trials that don't cost that much money can really make a difference.
Right.
And personally, I've seen that because having been on over 10 different types of chemotherapy treatments over the years, I'm just so grateful that there's always something new to try.
Of course.
And, a lot of people don't have those options. So what we're really doing is trying to stimulate more research so that the term that my doctor uses is take medicine from benchtop to bedside much more quickly.
Right. So if I had to send you Sylvia to join the relay on the weekend, where does she go?
It's great. So there are 2 locations,
Yes.
actually 3. Long Island, we're at the Roslyn location in Long Island. And in New York, we're at the 5th Avenue and the Gray Bar, which is Grand Central locations of Equinox. We're going to be there all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And Sylvia, I have to tell you, my 90-year-old grandmother is on my team every year.
Even I'm
telling you, anyone can do it. One of the reasons why I think we're so successful
Yes.
is that we made it very, very inclusive.
Fantastic.
So things like marathons and triathlons are really challenging, and people don't have the time or the ability to train. This is, anyone can get on a bike for a few minutes and feel good about themselves.
Right.
Excellent.
Too true.
Yeah.
So
how long do you cycle every day?
Well, it's interesting. Unfortunately, has been my toughest year medically.
Yep.
And for about 4 months, I was really, really not doing well. The doctors were preparing us for the worst. My tumors are in my abdominal area, and we tried chemotherapy after chemotherapy, and unfortunately, none of them were working. I started to, the tumors were growing so aggressively, I looked like I was about 7 months pregnant.
Wow.
And I started to retain so much water that I gained about 40 pounds of water weight in my legs.
God. My God.
So I couldn't move for a few months, and, they were preparing my husband and I for the worst. And then, thank goodness, we tried a chemotherapy cocktail that was a combination of a drug that had worked in the past and a new oral drug to complement it, and it's been working really, really well.
Wow.
So to answer your question, I have just started to get back on the bike, 15, 20 minutes a day at a very low resistance. But even, mentally, it feels so great to get back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. So we have a couple of callers that have been very patient.
Sure.
Sylvia wanting to talk to you, Sylvia, of course, because they don't
Okay.
want to talk to me.
Well,
Listening to Dr. Radio, Sirius 114 or XM 119, coming from the
Heart.
of the NYU Langone Cancer Center, 877 NYU Docs or 877-698-3627. We are talking with Jennifer Lynn Goodman,
Yes.
who is a 6-time survivor of MFH, which I can't even spell.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how were you diagnosed?
Yeah, excuse me. I started to notice that my stomach was getting a little bit larger.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah,
it was kind of odd because my stomach or abdomen area is always the smallest part of my body. But it was so gradual that I didn't really think much of it. I went to my gynecologist, and she sent me for an ultrasound, and she thought it was a fibroid, which I guess is common when you're not looking. I was 33 at the time, and who would have been looking for this? And I started to develop night sweats and fevers, and I felt like I had the flu. And I give my general practitioner a ton of credit. She was very, very aggressive. She did some blood work and said, you have a bad infection, but I don't know where. And she ordered a full-body CAT scan. And I'll never forget the radiologist said to me, are you aware you have a tumor the size of a football in your abdominal area? Yeah. And I said, no, I wasn't. And so from there, we had surgery and waited and then did chemotherapy. And, it's, luckily it hasn't metastasized, so it's stayed in my abdominal area, which means it's fairly, treatable. Although, unfortunately, it tends to get smarter and more aggressive every time it comes back, and chemotherapy regimens that worked originally aren't really helping now.
So let me just ask you then, when you were first diagnosed,
Yep.
Is there any history in the family of cancer?
No, well, my grandparents had cancer. Some of it was environmental, and some of it just grew. But this, I've been told sarcoma isn't genetic; it's not hereditary, totally random.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you were first diagnosed, your doctors there gave you a prognosis?
Yes. It's interesting. I was talking to two different hospitals, and the statistics are 50% of people who have my cancer don't make it past 5 years. But what I really liked about the doctors at Sloan Kettering, which is where I went, where they said you're not a statistic.
Right.
And
absolutely.
we're not going to treat you like a statistic. And year by year, all is unclear, but day by day, we find our way.
Right.
And I really love that expression and that quote, and I think I say it to myself at least every day, once or twice a day, because sometimes it's just too overwhelming to handle. Well, if this happens, or if this doesn't work, or if the surgery isn't successful, and just knowing day by day, how do I feel, and that's how I'm going to treat that day based on how I feel. With the exception of the past few months, which were very tough, I've managed to live a pretty good life.
So then you finished your treatment. How many years ago were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in 2004.
2004.
Yep.
So you get treated, and then you're doing okay. How were you monitored after that?
Yes, so I was treated, and then almost every time I had chemotherapy to shrink the tumors and then surgery to remove them. And with the exception of this past surgery where the tumors were just too big and growing too quickly that it wasn't successful, basically usually the surgery comes back and we say I'm technically free of the disease. So when I'm free of the disease, we monitor usually with CAT scans every 3 months. Mm-hmm. However, given my history, I think we feel like we need to find some sort of treatment that I can be on for a longer time span. Because I was on treatment preventatively for a year after one of my surgeries.
Right.
A low toxicity chemo that seemed to work very well, and the cancer didn't come back. And then I stopped after a year post-surgery, and 6 months later the cancer returned. So right now what we're trying to find is a treatment option that I can be on for a long time. The treatment that I'm on right now, unfortunately, is cardiotoxic. And I've had, that's one of the things that I've learned, which has been sobering, is I think a lot of people think, oh, okay, I just have to deal with my cancer and that's enough. And then all of a sudden you realize that there are side effects from the drugs that you're given that could be potentially harmful too.
Yes.
So I get echoes and EKGs every 6 weeks to monitor my heart to make sure that my heart is handling the chemotherapy. So we are optimistic, but realize that we have to find a plan B because I don't know how much longer I can be on the treatment that I'm on.
Wow.
So, my dream has been for many years that, in fact, there would be a special access for patients with these orphan diseases or these rare cancers to the pipeline of new drugs.
Yep.
And I think, for what I'm concerned, pharma will do such a great PR by really working very close with the FDA, create a registry where people that really don't have options can have a first-hand choice to, phase 1 trials and so on when these drugs hit the market and should be available. And create really a system to facilitate access, meaning if you have a phase 1 in Seattle, they can fly you to Seattle. They can make sure that you have access to this. They really partner with you fighting for your life.
Yeah.
Now, some drug companies have a mechanism of, like some kind of a special access mechanism for patients to look at their drugs, but it still calls for a doctor to identify the match. So
Yep.
to tell the patient, look, somebody somewhere is running this trial. And my dream has been that it should be the public. It should be really available to patients because you are the main stakeholder in your survival. And, you should be able to go around and shop for new drugs
Yeah.
and try to learn about what is out there.
Jennifer, can you stay with us beyond the 1 o'clock, or do you have to run?
No, I can stay.
Great.
All right.
Thanks. Okay,
so,
come back soon.
So wait, Sylvia.
Yes.
I'm running the show.
Oh, yes.
Okay?
Oh, my God. It's to do his macho thing
Gee,
again.
look, we have
Okay.
to wait till 30 seconds to
All
take
right.
a break.
He wants the 30 seconds for himself. What are you going to say?
I was going to try and ad-lib something, but now you've ruined my chance.
You're going to give away the numbers again?
No, we're gonna take a little break in a few minutes.
Yes.
We're gonna remind everybody we're listening to Dr. Radio. I speak
how-
very
how
slowly.
original.
Sirius 114 or XM 119.
Yes.
And the number here is what, Sylvia?
1-877 NYU Docs or 1-877-698-3627.
So we have been speaking with Jennifer Lynn Goodman, who
Yes.
is a 6-time cancer survivor for MFH. Do you know what that stands for, Sylvia?
Do you?
I do, actually. Yes.
Is there a rare
it's
form
a
of
rare form of
sarcoma?
sarcoma.
Yes.
Who is who founded Cycle for Survival, an annual event that raises money for research in rare cancers, and that's happening this coming weekend, where you're going to go there and cycle in a relay. And we're going to take a little break now and then come back with more of Jennifer and the expanded Ask Sylvia segment of our show, which has become so popular, we just have to have
Taking
our
over.
own show.
Yes,
So
yes.
Jennifer Dungaway will be right back.
Okay.
Okay, so, Sylvia, for the past hour,
Yeah.
actually for the past half an hour, I have butchered Jennifer's name.
I was.
Um,
I'm not surprised.
And it
it's
wasn't,
not the
but it
first,
wasn't
not the
my
last time.
fault.
It's never your fault, right?
So, Jennifer Goodman Lynn, okay?
It's not
got
Lynn
it.
Goodman.
It's not Lynn Goodman.
Goodman Lynn.
Sorry, we apologize. Our producer
Thank
is
you,
now
thank you.
moving
And
on to
you-
another show.
Jennifer, you were very, very gracious.
You
and
didn't correct me.
No, it's just
No
she's
problem.
too
It happens
polite.
often.
Yes.
It happens often.
All right.
Lynn Goodman kind of flows,
Well,
it's-
Lynn looks like a middle name. Instead, it's just Goodman Lynn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
I think you should change your name,
I cannot believe you are talking Abe Shashua.
I would-
Often called Chihuahua versus,
Fine,
Yeah.
be that way.
What I
Chappaqua.
was going to say before, Sylvia, you were talking
Yeah.
about trying to get the information to patients, and I couldn't agree more because it's so overwhelming
Yes.
when you're trying to find options. One of the things that I think was very important to me when I created Cycle for Survival as a patient, it was how do we make the research as turnkey as possible.
Right.
And in just 5 years, we've funded over 13 trials. We've been able to create a mechanism that 100% of the money goes right to research. And I think what's so great is the doctors at Memorial Sloan Kettering have created these consortiums.
Right.
So they're working with hospitals across the country.
Everywhere, yes.
So although the money is funneled through a New York institution, we are working with doctors
Yes.
in all of the major cities.
Yes.
I just found out the other day that someone I know in Chicago is actually on a trial that was funded from Cycle for Survival. So that makes me feel better because, my husband and I, as we're trying to learn what's out there, it's so overwhelming. And when you're dealing with your own disease, on top of that, to have to figure out how to maneuver through all of the medicine that's out there is very challenging.
So can I ask you, I'm a little curious about why did you pick spinning or cycling as being the thing to do?
Yeah, it's interesting. For me, I think it's a great, one, anyone can do it. It's really you against the bike. You're not competing against anyone. And when I have days that I'm really sick, I can only do 15, 20 minutes, and then when I feel good, I can do an hour. But, you can control the tension. So you always feel, empowered, and I think it's important when you're going through disease to maintain some sort of semblance of control.
So Jennifer, what do you do while you're biking?
I meditate a lot. I find that if anyone, it's a really great, I call it the type A person's yoga.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's really wonderful, and, every hill that the instructors take you on reminds me of a battle I'm dealing with cancer, and I just find that it's very cathartic and therapeutic for me. And it's really good therapy, and it's also a great workout.
Right.
And anyone can do it, like I say. I think part of the success of the event is that we've really made it open to everyone. And since we're all in New York, we realize that people have great intentions, but they're very, very busy.
Right.
And to ask someone to run a marathon for you doesn't just mean they have to show up that day. It means they have to train for months ahead of time.
That is true.
And so many of our friends joke around that, the one time they get on a bike is at Cycle for Survival, and they have a great time for an hour, and they feel like they're giving back and doing something good, but it's not really requiring a lot from them.
Right.
which is nice.
So Jennifer, can just hold on for a couple minutes here.
Sure.
We'll get back to Jennifer Goodman-Lynn, who's been very patiently holding on the phone, listening to this. Jennifer, when
You're a
people start
saint.
talking about breast cancer, they just never
They
stop.
go on, they go on and on and on and on. And certainly it's not an orphan disease. And
So remind me again about cycling for survival. Cycle
Yes.
for survival.
Cycle for Survival.
Yes, I mean it's been so long I've forgotten. So
Right. Cycle for Survival.
Yeah.
It's an indoor relay ride that raises money for rare cancer research. We've already raised over $3.6 million this year, which is pretty amazing because most athletic fundraisers are down 10 to 15% in the economy, and
Right.
we've doubled every year,
Wow.
which is fantastic. It's bittersweet. It shows you how many people
Yeah.
relate to the cause and want to help out. What I'm most proud of is that 100% of the money goes straight to research. There's absolutely no overhead, and people can find out more by going to cycleforsurvival.org.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the event is on this Sunday.
This Sunday,
This
and it's
Sunday.
also Saturday evening and Sunday in New York at the Fifth Avenue and Gray Bar locations at Equinox, and Saturday morning at the Roslyn location of our Equinox partners.
yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately I'm in LA, but you will go, right?
You just made this up.
No,
You
I'm
just
Yeah,
serious.
made
we'll
it-
I'm
get
made
you
it up.
next year.
Next year I will
it's
be
fun.
there.
All right,
Yes.
so Jennifer, I want to thank you for coming with us, coming on the air with us, and telling us all about this exciting event.
Well, thank you for having me.
You continue to feel well, continue to do well with treatment, and we look forward to having you perhaps here live with us
That
at your
sounds
next
wonderful.
cycle event. And I'll try and send you Sylvia, but she's like the short, very large woman who's going to show up in your place thinking that she can't cycle.
I can't cycle. They
I'm
needed
going to make you guys do the extreme version next year, all 4 hours.
Oh my God! I'll die. Start
Yes,
CPR.
then
Yes,
we'll be
yes,
ending our show.
yes.
All right, so Jennifer, take
Thank
care, and
you.
thanks for
Thank you
being
very
us
much. It was
with us, and
wonderful
we'll
to
talk
meet
to you
you.
soon.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.